You're watching the F-150 that has been riding the lane line to your left for the last quarter mile on the northern state. This is what makes motorcycle riding more dangerous in 2026 than it has been in years. Not a statistic, a real driver who has been drifting for 300 yards without knowing it. You move right in your lane, cover the brakes, and wait. The driver's head is slightly down. Then it comes back up. The truck corrects hard, a full steering input that carries it 6 inches across the lane line before he pulls back. He keeps going. You are never on his radar. That's not distracted driving in the old sense. It's something the road was not designed for. Every lane, every sight line, every intersection on Long Island was engineered for a driver who was fully present. That driver is increasingly rare. The mismatch between the road design and who is actually behind the wheel has been quietly widening for 20 years, and riders are absorbing the consequences. 3 specific adjustments in this video. Things most experienced riders have not heard framed in this way, and they make sense the moment you understand what has actually changed. Let's start with what the data actually shows. Motorcycle fatality rates in recent years have climbed faster than overall traffic fatality rates in the United States. In New York, motorcycle deaths have increased even as improvements in vehicle safety and technology have pushed car occupant numbers down. The riders in those numbers are not predominantly beginners. NHTSA data shows the median age of motorcyclists killed in crashes is in the mid-40s. These are not beginners. These are people who have been riding for years. Experience alone is not protection from what the road environment has become. People who knew what they were doing. I've been riding in New York for over 20 years, and I can tell you from the saddle that it feels different from how it felt in the early 2000s. The incidents that were occasional are happening with regularity. The riders I talk to notice it too. This is not paranoia, and it's not nostalgia. The environment changed. This is not a training problem. It's not a gear problem. It is road environment problems. The conditions experienced riders learn to manage have shifted without anyone explicitly naming what changed or what to do about it. Here's what actually changed. The road network you ride on was built primarily between 1950 and 1990. The lane widths, the sight lines, the intersection design, all of it was engineered around assumptions about driver behavior that were reasonable for their time. Drivers were paying attention. Reaction times were predictable. Vehicles were roughly the same size. None of those assumptions hold in the same way anymore. Research from the University of Utah found that even after a driver puts a phone down, a residual distraction window persists where the brain has not fully returned to the driving task. That window can last up to 27 seconds. At 55 miles an hour, a car covers more than 600 feet during that window. The road geometry assumes full presence and attention. Increasingly, that's not what you are riding next to. And the vehicles themselves, they've changed in a way that directly affects how visible you are. Pickup trucks and SUVs now account for more than half of all passenger vehicles on American roads. The structural A-pillar, the column at the front of the corner of the passenger compartment between the windshield and the front door window, has gotten significantly thicker in modern truck and SUV design for structural and crash safety reasons. Combined with the downward head angle that phone use creates, the area directly to the driver's right is harder to see than it was when the smaller vehicles that were common 20 years ago were on the road. The road was built for a 1975 compact sedan driver with nothing to do but drive. You're riding those same roads next to a 2024 crew cab pickup driver whose attention has been fragmented for the last 600 feet. I want to hear from you on this one. Long Island riders, New York riders, wherever you're watching, what has changed most about riding in your area over the last 5 years? Not what you read somewhere, what you actually see from the saddle. Drop it in the comments below. I read all of them. First adjustment, stop calculating following distance from the car directly in front of you. Start tracking the vehicle ahead of that car. Standard following distance advice is built around your own reaction time and the braking behavior of the car you're following. 4 seconds, let's say. The logic is sound for a driver who is fully present, but a distracted driver does not brake when the car in front of them brakes. They brake when they look up from whatever grabbed their attention, register the situation, processes it, and then responds. That sequence adds anywhere from a half a second to a full second on top of a normal braking response. At 60 miles an hour, that additional lag consumes roughly 90 feet of your buffer. On Long Island, where the highways are dense and the lanes compress quickly, you're often surrounded on multiple sides. The car directly in front of you is a variable you cannot control. The information 2 vehicles ahead is where your real lead time lives. When that second car shows early braking, you have your warning. Start tracking it and adjusting before the car directly in front of you even knows there's a reason to. Second adjustment, re-examine where you position yourself within the lane in mixed highway traffic. Most experienced riders were taught to ride the left third of the lane. Better visibility, cleaner road surface, more distance from the shoulder. Those reasons are still valid in most conditions, but there is a specific modern scenario they don't address. In mixed highway traffic, when you're positioned just to the left of a large pickup truck or an SUV, the A-pillar blind spot and the downward head angle we discussed can place the left third of your lane directly in the area the driver cannot clearly see. A driver in that vehicle who scans left before changing lanes may not pick you up in that exact position. Moving right within your lane by 12 to 18 inches in that situation does not reduce your overall visibility. It moves you out of that structural blind spot without taking you to the lane edge. It's a small, specific adjustment that addresses a threat that did not exist in the same way when the left third advice was written. The instruction was correct for the vehicle mix it described, but that vehicle mix has changed. Third adjustment. Learn to read the snapback correction before it happens. This one matters most for highway riding. The old model of a drifting vehicle was gradual. The car slowly migrating towards your lane over several seconds gave you time to respond. The drift was smooth and trackable. Distracted drivers don't drift smoothly into corrections. They drift while attention is somewhere else, and when attention returns, they correct sharply. A hard steering input at highway speed. It happens in under a second, and it happens in the direction of your lane. The pre-correction indicators are readable if you know what to look for. A gradual drift that seems to stabilize and then drifts again. A driver's head visible through a glass that's angled down or turned. A vehicle that has gone slightly soft in its discipline where before it was steady. When you see those signs, create distance before the correction starts. Not hold your position and prepare to respond. There is no time to respond once the snapback is in motion. You have to read the drift while it's still gradual. I've handled motorcycle accident cases in New York for 30 years, and the snapback correction shows up in accident reconstruction reports more often than most riders would expect. The steering trace and lane departure timing show a sudden, sharp movement, and the driver often genuinely does not remember initiating it. That evidence helps establish liability. The driver's window to avoid the crash entirely was in the 3 seconds before it started. If the distracted driver piece is something you want to go deeper on, I put together a full video on what to do in real time when you realize the driver near you is not paying attention, how to read them, and how to create space without disrupting your own ride. I'll link it at the end. And one last question. What's the one change you have noticed the most about riding where you are? Tell me in the comments.